All right.
You're alive, so I can't say anything bad.
Oh, you. I'll just yell at you later.
These icons are all different than the ones on my phone. No, it's not that. It's not. It's coming up now. Okay. Here we go. No, it's not that. It's not.
Yeah, you got to turn the volume all the way down on there.
Oh, on this. Yes. Okay.
Keith and Brian, and Corey Ruth, and McMahon.
Oh, Corey Ruth. Hey. When does JR get to do a live? That's a good question.
When I feel like it.
When he's not scared.
Hello. I'm not allowed to tie the flies that I want to tie.
From Canada.
Big Man said not sunburned.
Oh, I'm not going to be sunburned.
Oh yeah, when you sit underneath.
Oh, I sit under an umbrella with like SPF 200 SPF. Yeah, right. Oregon, not sunburned. Corinne Kerr, did Owen make it home safe on Friday? Brian Davenport, nothing to it but to do it. Mike Hawkins, hey Mike. Ed Hayes, that's a heck of a profile pic you got there, Mr. Hayes.
Yeah, I took that. With portrait mode, the guy in the back of the boat has to take it because the one in the middle was too close in order to be able to.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Melbourne, Australia. Rock on. Oh, we hit a wall here at 29.
Well, I haven't shared any groups.
All right, well, let's get to sharing.
But why don't you worry about tying and I'll worry about everything else?
I'm worried. I'm tying. I got it. You have something blocking the tip of your vise. That's a camera, Glenn. And when we when I tie, we'll switch. It's a close up, close view camera. The Susky is nice and clear. Yeah, unfortunately, we won't be out there for a little bit.
Weeks.
Yeah, at least 2 weeks. Hey, Craig, how you doing?
We did the Juniata. Well, I did the Juniata.
Yeah, I was on vacation. Hey, Mike, how you doing, bud? Richmond, British Columbia. Huh. Did not know there was a Richmond, British Columbia. Can everybody hear me okay? Do I sound all right? Does the picture look good? I love my Nor-vise. Great. Okay, so the sound in the picture is great. All right, Tyler's sharing it to a bunch. Yes and yes. Good. Okay. Tyler's sharing it to a bunch of Facebook groups now. We'll get that done and then we'll get started.
Go ahead.
Susquehanna isn't clear below Holtwood. How do you know that, Ed?
Can't believe he said that name.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Do you want to go in and delete it real quick?
I know. What are you doing, Ed? Perfect. Yes. Okay, good. It's a few more minutes to get this shared out, and then we'll get started. We're up to about 60 people. That's good. The subject needs help. The subject needs help. Put good and clear. Okay. Julianne is high and off color. I really need to upgrade my Nor-vise. I agree with that 100%. www.nor-vise.com. It'll ship out tomorrow. He's over there going, shut up, man.
More efficient stuff I can buy. So go ahead, buy a legacy.
Yeah. Nah, doesn't quite work that way.
Sometimes it does.
Loving the legacy. Oh, you got it. You got it on the mic on the Bow River deal. That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, it's way below the dam.
Way below the dam. Okay.
Took the boat out. Oh yeah, Braden invited him and Colleen down next weekend. Said to bring your boat because the other two are already full.
Oh, did he really? Well, they should come. Tell a joke or something to pass the time. We're going to get started here in a minute. Where are we at? We're at 7:04. All right. No better time than the present. All right, guys, how you doing? Facebook Live again. It seems like a long time since we've been here. Glad you're all with us. We were kind of thinking that the viewership may go down as we got into the summer, and it really hasn't. And
quarantine started to lighten up. People were actually let out of the house.
Yeah, and Michelle and I were at the beach all week this past week, and people are definitely not staying in their house. Trust me. But yeah, it's great that you guys are all here. We had since I've been on, we've had two fantastic events. Grant 2 weeks ago did a snakehead deal, and Grant about broke the internet, and he holds the by far the record for 24-hour views. And then last week we had Shannon on from Tuckasegee Fly Shop, and he did a great show. Now,
I'm proud of you for saying Tuckasegee.
Tuckasegee. I've been practicing. Yeah, it's not an easy word to say, but they had a little bit of issue. They're in western North Carolina. I'm sorry, and apparently, and this is kind of foreign to us, that their internet down there can be challenging, especially when they have a storm. And we haven't had issues with internets, with storms and rain and stuff for like 15 years. And it's kind of different, things around different parts of the country. So the actual live version of Shannon's in the beginning was skipping a little bit, and it settled down towards the end, and it wound up being a fantastic show. But when we posted it on the Facebook, we used the original, that they shot at the shop. So I'm sorry, not on Facebook, on YouTube. So if you go to the YouTube and you look at Shannon's tying from last week, it's not choppy and it's not skippy the way that it was on the live. And that's something for everybody to remember. We always put these up on the YouTube, usually a day or two after. And so if you miss anything, or if we have an issue with an internet, or if it cuts out or something, it will be up there for you to see. Now, I see people talking about the object in front of the vise. That is actually a separate camera. And when I start tying, we will switch to that, and you'll have a close-up view of the fly that I'm tying. So I've got 4 flies on tap tonight. These are 4 of my favorite smallmouth flies. For any of you guys who know me, we are a smallmouth junkie family here. It's our number one fish. Myself and our crew, we spend a lot of time chasing smallmouth. I'm going to spin up 4 bugs tonight. These are, like I said, these are some of my favorites. These are obviously not the only ones that we fish, but they're definitely staples. So again, if you guys have any questions, fire away. We'll try to get the questions answered as efficiently as we can. If I miss a question, I will go back and Shannon Messer, very bad internet. Yeah. If I miss a question, I'll go back and I'll look at the live feed and the comments and so forth, and we'll get them answered up. So if you want to, Tyler, go ahead and switch to the other camera, and we're going to start. The first pattern that I'm going to do is called the Clawdad. There you go. So all you guys that were saying object in front of the camera, that's what that object is. So the Clawdad is a Chuck craft pattern, and Chuck was a famous fly designer down around the Virginia area. Unfortunately, he just passed away, and he left behind some fantastic patterns. This one, and he has one that's called a Crittermite, which is a Helgermite pattern, are 2 of my staple patterns. This pattern that I'm going to tie tonight, in I believe it was 2015, between myself and my buddy Ed Hayes, who's watching tonight, it accounted for 20 fish over 18 inches in 1 year. And it's so good color for the t-shirt. Thank you. It's so easy to tie and it's so effective. So let's get started here. I've got it is and I put the hook pack away. It is a Mustad signature. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I will absolutely post all of the material lists and everything when we put it up on YouTube. I'll make sure that all the material lists are there. So it is a Mustad. It's a signature hook. I don't tie on Mustad hooks very often. This is one of the ones that I do like. So I'm just going to start my thread on here. What's up, Tyler?
The benefits of the Clawdad is if you go to Eastern Trophies Fly Fishing, you can buy the Clawdad kit where it'll give you enough to tie, I believe, 12 flies. It gives you hooks, it gives you the eyes, it gives you the chenille, everything ready to go. And I believe William, I think Hirschniak is how you say his name, has kits set up for the majority of the Chuck Craft flies. Yeah,
he does. I know he has kits for the Clawdad, for the Crittermite, for the cork bugs that are becoming one of my favorites here very quick. So yeah, and it's Eastern Trophies Fly Fishing. So a lot of the things that you'll see that that we use or that I'm tying this pattern with, you can buy in a kit, and it's got the hooks, the chenille, the tail, the eyes, and everything. So
I think it's like, for the Clawdad, it's $25 for a kit to tie 12 flies, and has everything there. That's a pretty solid deal.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to put a set of eyes on this thing, and these are medium lead eyes. And the way that I measure the placement of my eyes when I'm doing a Clouser is the length, or the overall length of the dumbbell eyes. If I lay it up against the eye of the hook, I want the eye to be the inside part of the dumbbell. So like right here, you can see I've built a little thread bump up. That's what's going to rest my, that's the forward part of where my eye placement's going to be. So I've laid down a thread base, built up a little thread bump, and I'm going to put the eyes on top. And I do 3 front to back, 3 back to front, and then 3 around in between the hook and the eyes. And then what I'll do is I'll come in here with some Zap-A-Gap, or I do not use the acrylic stuff for this. I use regular old Zap-A-Gap or crazy glue, super glue, whatever you want to call it. Reason I don't use the acrylic for this, you put the acrylic on, you hit it with the light, the acrylic gets hard. And UV, yeah.
You said acrylic a couple times.
Well, it's a UV acrylic epoxy, but it will get hard. And if it gets hard, then the thread can't tighten down and really cinch those eyes down to the shank. So I will do front to back, back to front, crossing over the eyes, and then 3 around, put some glue on it, and then I will repeat that 3 more times. So this is how I do my Clouser eyes. So the thread is in front of the eye, and I go front to back, 1, 2, 3, and I'm putting some good tension on this. Then I will switch, and I will go back to front. So I'm making an X on top of the eyes. 1, 2, 3. Then I go in between the eye and the hook 3 times. Okay, so that's twice now I've done that series, and I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And at that point, my eyes are on, and I'm good to go on to the next step. All right. Medium chenille brown. This is my favorite color. I typically tie and fish these in 3 colors. This is by far my favorite. We also will do them in olive, and we will do them in black and blue. And we played around. I tied some white ones up, and the white looked really cool, and I had a lot of high hopes for them, and they didn't fish very well. So white's going to be on the bench here for a little bit.
If you go to buy the tails, I believe it's either the wood or the moccasin.
This is moccasin. Yeah.
Moccasin
the colors are a little bit different. They got wood, moccasin, clove is one of them.
Clove
ivy.
is the olive.
Yeah, ivy's one of them. So, and if you're not sure, just shoot William a email, and he'll help you out. So, and I will tell you this, I tie these a little different than the original pattern. I'm not trying to take anything away from what Chuck did. It's just, I feel more confident with them this way, and this is the way that I tie them. So I've taken my chenille, I've stripped a little bit of the fuzzy from the core. I'm going to tie this on right behind the eyes. Okay, and then I'm going to fold that core back, and I'm going to get it in there good and tight. I'm going to jump in front, and I'm going to throw a half hitch on it. I'm going to go on my cradle, and I'm going to clip that little bit of tail off. Now, I'm going to use the rotary function of the vise, and I'm going to wrap this, and I'm just putting wraps right next to one another, and I'm going to go all the way back to the barb of the hook. Okay, now I'm going to wrap right back up on top of the chenille that I just laid down, and I'm going to go 3 turns forward. So there's 1, 2, 3, and you can see where I've got a thicker body here and here, and there's a reason that I do this. Okay, now I'm going to take my bobbin off the cradle, and I'm going to wrap back over top of my first part of my chenille. I want to wrap back to this section right here where my chenille is coming off, and I basically want to lash this down.
Looks like a little in front of the point of the hook.
Yeah, a little bit in front of the point. And this is all going to get covered up, so don't worry about how good or how bad this looks. Now, this is a step that I probably should have done beforehand. This is the tail that we use, okay? And you can see they are sized. So this is a size 4 Mustad signature hook, and this is a size 4 Clawdad tail, and you can see it's got a hole punched in it. This is like a suede material, so these things are extremely durable, and it's not easy to get the hook through them. So you can see it's already got the hole punched through it. So actually, I should have done this in the beginning. I should have started with the tail on, but you're going to put the tail on the inside. Tail's going to ride on the inside of the hook bend. And let me get it on there. There we go. Okay. Now I would do that first before I put the hook in the vise, and I simply forgot. Let me get my hook straight back in here. I'm using the large jaw, and I'm probably going to use the large jaw for pretty much everything tonight. Okay, so now I'm going to index that around, and I'm going to take the tail, and this tab right here is going to be my tie-in point. Okay, so this is why I want to wrap that double thick body, because I want to use that to keep the tail off of the bend of the hook. I believe that it keeps it from fouling a little better, and I believe that they swim better. That's just my belief, but that's why we tie flies, so that we can do them the way that we want. So I put one loose wrap on here. It's half a wrap actually, and I'm straightening everything up. So I want the tail straight and in line with the hook, so you can see when I turn the vise, you can see what I'm looking at there. Now I'm going to take my thread, and I'm just going to lash this down good and tight right on top of that chenille. Walk it forward, up to the eye of the hook, put a half hitch in it, go on my cradle. Okay, now
you don't put any flex cement or anything like that.
You know what, I did. I used to at one point. I used to flex cement the whole thing, and I'm kind of to the point to where I trust my knots now, and I trust my tying. That most of the time you're going to lose these before the fly falls apart. Hey, Rob Giannino's watching. Congrats, bud. I didn't know if you were going to be on tonight. Rob today just finished a 20-year goal or bucket list, if you will. He's up in the Sierra Mountains, and he caught a wild golden trout. Now, when I say golden trout, I'm not talking about the ugly orange bananas that the state of Pennsylvania stocks. I'm talking a true California golden trout. So congrats, bud. That's awesome. So getting back to the flex cement, no, I don't. This particular pattern, kind of like nymphs, you don't lose quite as many as you do, but you will lose them. I mean, you are bouncing bottom. It is a crayfish pattern. So I don't flex cement. You certainly can. But like I said, I trust my knots. I'm using good heavy thread that it's typically not a problem.
So one of the differences with the Chuck Craft patterns is the majority of them were designed to actually be thrown on a floating line.
Mm-hmm.
So this pattern, when you fish it, throw it on a floating line, it makes it look like a fleeing crayfish. And we figured that out last year floating with Brian Shoemaker. We've started catching a fair amount more fish using the floating line with them.
All right, so now I've got my tail tied in. I got my bobbin on my cradle, and I'm going to go back to my chenille. Now I'm going to wrap right over top of the first layer chenille, right over top of the tail that I tied in, right up to the back of the eyes. Now I'm going to crisscross the eyes once. So I'm going to go front to back, back to front. All right, here, I'll do that again for you. So I'm right up at the back of the eyes. So I go back to front, so you can see I've got one X on the going over the eyes. Then I'm going to go the opposite direction, right? So that covers up the eyes and the tie-in point. And then I'm just going to wrap this forward to the eye of the hook. Why are you using the large jaw? Because these are bigger hooks. This is a size 4. The standard jaws are good, usually down to a size 1. I don't use the large jaws a lot, so when I get a chance to use them, I do. You could tie actually all 4 of these patterns with the standard jaw, but if you have the large jaw, why not use them? So now I've got my chenille. It's wrapped up to the eye of the hook. I'm going to come in with my auto bobbin. I'm going to trap this chenille. I'm going to do 3 behind, 3 in front. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to trim this off nice and close.
David Delk is watching.
Hey, David, what's up? And I'm going to build up a nice thread head. And we're going to whip finish. And we're going to tie it off. I will say in our drift boat, we typically have 4 rods rigged. And
6 at this point.
Well, yeah, sometimes 6. Well, it depends. If Ed's in the boat with us, we got 19, but that's another story.
He's been good, all right.
I know. So, but of our typically 4, maybe 5 rods that we have rigged, I can guarantee you 90% of the time this fly is rigged on one of them. Okay, so I've got my eyes in, I've got my chenille body on, I got my tail on. Now we got to do one more thing. I wrapped the chenille up to the eye of the hook, tied it off, built up a nice head, whip finished, and I cut my thread. Now I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to tie it right back on, right over top of the chenille, right behind the eyes. So we're not going in front of the eyes, we're going behind the eyes. And I'm going to put about 10 good tight wraps right behind the eyes. I'm going to clip my tag off.
It goes easy turbo.
Did he say that? Easy turbo. Okay. Last step is these are round round rubber legs, again from Eastern Trophy. All this stuff is one of the kits that we purchased. And apparently I have been using these because I've already got a batch that's pre-cut. Okay, so I'm going to use about 8 of these, and I'm not going to count them, but after you tie a couple hundred of these a year or more, you have an idea. Okay, so about this many. Now I'm going to lay these on top of the hook. Remember, this is going to ride hook point up. So I'm going to lay it on, I want these tied in on the inside, inside bend of the hook. So I am actually going to split them. All right. So I split them so I can put it on either side of the hook like so. Okay. Now I'm holding them on the inside.
So how far back do you want the rubber legs on?
Ah, good question. Who was that?
Me.
Oh, okay.
No one asked it and it needed to be
Okay,
asked.
yeah. All right. So how far back? So I'll show you here in a second. All right.
Like, yeah, we probably shouldn't miss that step.
Yeah, you always cut them long, and I want them to be right on top. And then I'm going to do one kind of loose wrap, and I'm manipulating these so that the legs are on top on the inside of the hook bend. Okay, and that's what I'm looking for. So you can see they're right in line, and they're all on top and on the inside of the bend. Okay, now I'm going to put a series of wraps down so that we get plenty of tension on them.
That is the main difference in between our version and the Chuck Craft version, is the legs all being on one side as opposed to being around the entire thing.
Yep.
And actually, there's a Chuck Craft one over there.
There is, yeah. I will show a comparison. There's an actual one tied by Chuck Craft that he gave us in Virginia this year. Yep, actually right before he passed away. So, okay. So now I'm going to take the fly out, and I'm going to take, and it's kind of hard to do this on camera, but I'll show you as best I can. Just take my bodkin and I separate all these legs. And I'm basically just running the bodkin up through, spreading them out. And then here on the front, I want to separate those as well. Kind of looks like a little crayfish tail when you get them all split apart. And that's why I like these. I like the round rubber legs because they really stand out when you're done. Okay, so let me spread these out. Like I said, it's hard to do this part on the camera. Okay, let me get this side done. This is really, for us in the world of fly fishing, to us, this is what, if anybody has in the past has done any conventional gear type bass fishing, one of the most popular lures is called a jig and pig, and it's a piece of pork rind on a jig head. And this is basically the fly fishing version of the jig and pig. So there it is. That's the finished fly. Okay, your legs, you want on the front of the fly, you want them right about even with the eye of the hook, and on the back of the fly, you want them, these are actually a little long, and I'm going to trim them down. You want them about halfway, okay, about right here. You want them about halfway between the notch, the V notch here, and the end of the leg. So you want them about right here. And that is our version of the Clawdad. Okay, now the original.
Shannon says that he uses them for trout, and he's caught 3-inch wild brookies on those.
Really?
Yeah. That's
wow.
Cool.
Now this is a bigger size. This is probably
that's a 1.
This might be a 1, yeah. But you can see it's the same basic design. Now on the original pattern, they really tightened down this area here. And I don't know that has anything to do with the way that it fishes, but they do put legs all the way around. And, you know, I'm not going to, by any stretch of the imagination, argue with the man that invented the fly. Personally, I like the legs on the inside. I think it swims better that way. But again, that's just personal preference. But there's the original. That is a Chuck Craft tied fly. He gave that to me literally about a month before he passed away. And then this is our version of it. This is a smaller one. This is the size we fish all the time. We will go bigger earlier in the year, but this right here is one of our staple smallmouth patterns. Clawdad and brown.
In Virginia, they go even bigger. William ties an articulated version that's absolutely huge for pretty small smallmouth.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
These will also work lots of crawfish. Yeah. 3-inch wild brookies. Yep. It is, Maurice.
Clawdads for Friday.
No, I don't think so. I know you ain't going to throw that on my brookie rod, but yeah, Maurice, it is. It's a cool fly, and it's easy to tie, and you can crank them out quick. And I'll sit down and usually in one setting, I'll tie several dozen, and that will usually keep us for most of the year. So that's the Clawdad. If you have any questions, feel free to fire away. I do want to mention, do you coat the thread with lacquer? You can, yes, absolutely. He's talking about the thread wraps right here. You can coat them with a head cement. It will make it a little more durable. Sometimes I do. I probably should have on this one. But again, a lot of times you're going to lose it before the thing comes undone. So again, yeah, choice is yours. But you can definitely coat these thread wraps, and you can coat the head as well. So I did want to mention the Nor-vise Tires Facebook page. Mike Hawkins, who's on here tonight, he do I sell them? No, I do not. I don't production tie anymore. I just, unfortunately, I don't have time.
You can buy, if you don't want to tie them, you can buy them from Eastern Trophies Fly Fishing as well. Is
this one of the flies you're submitting for the Nor-vise Tires? It is. It actually is the fly I'm going to send you. So that's Mike who's asking now. I wanted to mention the Nor-vise Tires page. It is a great Facebook community. It's run and owned by a gentleman named Mike Hawkins. They are doing a fly raffle right now, and I think you can still get into it, but you need to get into it quick. You need to go join the page if you're not, and then send Mike a message and tell him you're in. And I'm not quite sure how he's going to do the raffle, but basically a bunch of people have agreed to send in a bunch of flies. This fly, literally this one is going out tomorrow, and it's going to be in the raffle, and he's going to give them away, and we're hoping that it builds viewership and membership for the page. The page is fantastic. There's a great bunch of people there. There's not a lot. There's really not any BS that goes on there. People ask questions about a Nor-vise. I answer them as much as I can. Tyler answers them. Casey Miller will answer them. You know, a lot of the Nor-vise ambassadors will hop on there and answer questions. And just the tires that are on that page are great. So it's a really, really good resource. And if you're not a member of it already, you should go. Yeah, you may purchase this Chuck Craft fly directly from Eastern Trophies Fly Fishing. Yep. All right. So fly number 2 is one of my all-time favorites. We're talking smallmouth. Oh yeah, hey, good point, Mike. I forgot. And Norvise is putting up we're giving away a bobbin kit with the raffle as well. So some really good prizes there. So if you're not a member, go ahead and join, and tell your buddies, and join into a really, really good Facebook group. All right, so we're tying smallmouth flies tonight. And the second fly, like I said, the second fly is going to be one of my all-time favorites by a guy anybody ever heard of named Bob Clouser. Yeah, everybody's heard of that. So this is a pattern that's called the Swimming Nymph. And this is a great pattern. It is a security blanket. It's the pattern that I fish when I don't know what to fish. It is a fantastic smallmouth pattern. My buddy Ed uses it for trout all the time. He hammers trout on this fly. So really, really good fly. What's that?
You can use it for steelhead.
Yeah, you can use it for steelhead too. So our rivers that we fish have a very, very large population of damsel and dragonflies. And if you're going to fish the Brandywine and some of the other rivers that we fish here locally, you have got to have a damsel or dragon nymph pattern. And this is the one. I used to have a pattern for each, a damsel pattern and a dragon pattern. And this right now is the only one that I fish. It's the only one that I've fished for years. So we've got the same Mustad hook in there, and I can't remember. I'm bummed. Ah, there it is. Hold on. I got you. I know it's in here. Can't believe I put the hook pack in there. I didn't mean. There they are.
Yeah, we got a giant bag of Eastern.
This is our Eastern trophy bag. So okay, it is a size 4 R73-9671 signature hook. This is one of the only hooks that I use. This is one of the only Mustad hooks that I use. Okay, so there it is. Size 4 R73-9671. So the 9671 is a staple. It's a 2X heavy 3XL streamer hook. The R73 denotes it's a signature hook, which is a much better quality hook than the standard Mustad. So that was for the Clawdad, and it's also for this pattern. All right. So we've got the hook and the vise. I've got a medium brass cone. I've got some 025 lead wire. We're going to spin a little bit of lead on here. So I'm going to put the lead up through the eye of the hook. And I'm going to wrap it around to behind the cone. And we're going to spin the vise. And I'm going to put about 10 wraps of lead on there. See how easy that was? Now I'm going to pinch it off with my thumbnail. Come in here with my bobbin, pull that out, pinch that off, tighten it up, and then use that to push the cone up and center the cone on the eye of the hook. So we've got a cone, and I've got about, I'm going to say about 10, 12 wraps of 025 lead. Okay. All right, let me get my thread here.
Hey, Shoemaker's watching.
Hey, what's up, Brian? All right, so now I want to tie my thread on right behind my lead, and I've got to build for lack of a better term, I've got to build a ramp to kind of smooth out the transition from the hook to the lead. So I'm just going to spin the vise and work the thread up and down, up and down. Now see how I've built a nice tapered underbody for this. It's just going to make your fly look better when you finish. And again, on the Norvise, very easy to do. I'm going to wrap my thread back to just in front of the point of the hook. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab some rusty brown Marabou. And I'm going to look for a good one here. And nope. There we go. All right, so that's what I'm going to use for my tail. And when I say looking for a good one, see how these tips are all nice and even, and they're light and wispy, and they're not creased, and they don't have, like, you know, thick ones and thin ones. That's what I'm looking for a Marabou tail feather. Now I'm going to strip this stuff off the bottom.
Do you cut the stem out of it on this one?
Who asked that?
Me.
Oh, you? Okay. You're asking all the good questions. So yes, I do. And
People are very talkative tonight. I gotta make
this
up
is
for it.
This is a trick that I learned watching one of our ambassadors, Tony Muncie, a couple weeks ago.
Who I believe today is his birthday.
Oh, I'm
was
not
either
sure.
Today or it was yesterday.
I'm not sure. Can you put the company where you buy the flies? It's there. It's Charles. It's already been posted, but it's Eastern Trophies Fly Fishing. But if you look a little bit up on the comments, it's already been posted. All right, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to find the center stem of this feather, and this is such a cool thing that I learned. okay, which is right, it's right here if you can see it. And I'm just going to reach in there.
Hey, one of the tailors wash.
And I'm going to cut it out. Okay, so now you can see that's where the center stem stops. Okay, right there. And what that does, the stem is stiffer than the rest of these feather barbules, and it kind of affects the way that the tail swims. But when you cut it out, you take the stiffness out, and then when you stroke the feather back, you've still got what you're looking for in your Marabou, but you don't have that stiff center section that's going all the way through the center of the tail, and it makes your tail swim a lot better. And that's a cool little trick that I picked up watching Tony do his twisted bugger a couple of weeks ago. All right, so now on the tail, I want a length of from the eye of the hook to the point. I don't want to go the full length of the shank of the hook. I want from the eye to the point. I'm going to measure it up. It's about right there. Okay. And I'm going to do a soft wrap, medium wrap, and a hard wrap. And I'm going to wrap it right back to over top to where my thread is over top of the barb of the hook. It's not a very long tail on this fly. Okay. Now I'm going to come up here. A lot of guys would take and they would cut this off. I'm not going to do that. I want to use that to bulk up the underbody of the fly. So I'm just going to take some loose wraps, and I'm just trying to lash this feather down to the shank of the hook, and I'm going to get it right up behind the cone. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to hold the bobbin, spin the vise, tighten that thread or tighten that feather right down. Now see how that gives you a super, super cool, smooth underbody. All right. Get a drink here. All right, next step is this is copper brown Flashabou. You can use gold, you can use copper. This is a little bit of a muted color Flashabou, so it gives you a little flash without looking like a bright neon sign. All right, so I've taken one strand, doubled it over, turned it into two. I'm going to fold it in. Bring it right up here on top of the fly, and now I'm tied down, but I'm going to use this area here to really tie this in. Tie it right back to my tie-in point. And I'm going to clip these just a skosh longer than the Marabou. And that's it. That's really all the flash that I want in this pattern. So I'm going to advance the thread just a little bit off of the tail. I'm going to throw a half hitch in it. I'm going to put it on my cradle. Now, this will tell you how much I love this pattern. When you find a dubbing color that you like and you buy it by the pound, that's when you know that you've dialed in on what you like. This is the only color that I tie this fly in. This is the only dubbing that I use. I'm bummed because I do not know where I got this from, but this amount of dubbing in here should last me quite a while. So this is a synthetic dubbing. You can use rusty colored like hare's ear or any of the Senyo laser dub. They make one that's a rusty, but I like this rusty orange. I'm going to tease out a little bit here, and I've already got my bobbin up on the cradle, and I'm going to prep my dubbing. I'm going to spin the vise. I'm going to touch dubbing to the thread, and it's going to jump out of my fingers onto the thread, and I'm going to work that all the way up, and I'm going to make a pretty good sized dubbing noodle here. All right, got a little bit fat there, so I'm going to pull some of that off. That's one of the problems of time with a cone. The thread doesn't rotate on center, and it makes it a little tough to get it started. I want to make a little bit more. Actually, I think that might be enough. Let me try that before I get this little section off that's bugging me here. Okay. Now I want to tighten that up a bit, so I'm going to pinch the thread here on the end, spin the vise, tighten that up. Now I'm going to hold on to that, come off of the cradle, and get that There we go.
So there's no wire ribbing or anything with this fly?
No, I typically don't. I don't think the original pattern called for wire, and I usually don't. This synthetic dub, when you get it on there and you really tighten it up, it's a pretty good tight pack, and you can see using the materials to build the underbody as well as the dubbing in the noodle, it gives you really cool, tight, tapered body. And I don't really see the need for the rib on it, but you can absolutely put it in there if you want. Okay, next step is Peacock Hurl. Okay, if you have some Peacock Hurl that maybe isn't very long, like this pack is here, this would be a good place to use it. This is not what I would consider great Peacock Hurl. Definitely not anything that I would want to use if you've seen us reinforcing the Peacock Hurl where we have the long strands and we spin it around the thread. But for this application, this short Peacock Hurl works really, really well. So I'm going to take a handful, and it's going to be a pretty good size handful. And I'm not going to count them. And a couple real short ones in there I got to get out. Okay. Let me go a few more than that. One thing that I will say, when you're doing what I'm getting ready to do now, it's better to have more than to have not enough. Okay. All right. So that's my hang of Peacock Hurl, for lack of a better term. Okay. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to trim the ends off like so. I'm going to lay this down and I'm going to tie it onto the top of the shank. This is actually going to be my wing case when I'm done. Strong. Okay. And I'm just going to leave that there for now. When I'm finished, we're going to fold this forward, and that's going to be the wing case of the Nymph. So now I'm going to have hitch. I'm going to go back on my cradle. Same color dubbing. Tease out a little bit here. There we go. Tighten that up. Come off the cradle. Wrap my slack thread back on. Work my way to the back, and then I'm going to use this to build up the underbody. Okay. Next step is going to be a brown Schlappen feather. That one on top looks good. Okay. And tie that in. I stripped and prepped the butt, cut it off, and I'm going to tie it in by the butt section. Up here by the cone, make sure it's good and tight. Okay, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to do about 3 turns back, palmered, and then I'll cross it over, and I'm going to do about 3 turns forward. And what I've done, I've wrapped it front to back and then back to front. And that's an old Norm trick. And what that does is it helps the fly, it prevents it from spinning while you're casting, and it doesn't twist your leader up as bad. Okay. Going to reach in here, and I'm not going to clip this. I'm just going to pull up on it, and I'm going to saw it back and forth with my scissors. That comes out, and I don't clip any of my any of my feathers, any of my feather barbules off. Now I'm just going to take and kind of part it down the middle, and I'm going to pull these down. These are actually the legs of the nymph. Okay, and I'm going to pull it down. Now I'm going to take this Peacock Hurl, I'm going to fold it right over the top. I got that one little short one in there that's got to come out. I'll get him in a second. Okay, fold it right over the top. Take one loose wrap just to kind of capture and gather everything up. Okay, now, there we go. I'm just gradually pulling it. You can see the stems are sticking up. Just gradually pulling this down into the cone. Okay, and I'm going to clip these buttons. I'm actually going to switch to my fine scissors, and I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to clip these butt sections out. And I'm going to clip those, and I'm going to clip that little short one there that's bugging me. Okay.
David Carville
looks good.
Use dubbing wax.
What's that?
Do you ever use dubbing wax?
No, not for this type of dubbing. If I'm doing a dubbing loop, sometimes I will. If I'm using the dubbing brush table, if I'm making these type of brushes, I will use wax on the wire. But when I'm just doing a regular dubbing noodle, like I've done twice here on this pattern, I do not. Now, at this point, we've got a choice. We've got this gap here that's behind the, in between the wing case and the cone. We can fill that up with dubbing, or what I have been doing here lately is I'll take my brown thread and I'll finish it off. And I'll cut that. And then I will go to a hot orange thread. This is all of these threads are going to be Semperfli 8/0 Classic. And I'm going to put the hot orange on there, get a couple of wraps of that. And I'm just going to hold this, spin the vise, and I'm just going to build up a nice little hot spot right behind that cone. I don't do this on all of them. I will have some that'll have this hot spot, and I will have some that will have dubbing the same color as the body and the as the abdomen and the thorax. And this is nothing more than an attractor. I like it. I think hot spots are cool. So I fish a lot of hot spots. Again, a lot of this, what we do is how confident you are with the fly that's on the end of your tippet. So if you have confidence in it, it's more than likely going to catch fish.
So do you put Solares over the wing case with as brittle as Peacock is?
I don't. And with, believe it or not, these flies fish well. That's the finished fly, and the legs are supposed to be that long, and that those legs like that really give this fly a kind of a shimmering, kind of shaky motion when it's in the water.
Ed asked if you can use a tungsten bead instead of a cone.
You can use a bead. I just started tying them with the cones. The bead, even if you use a 3/16 bead, you get kind of a funky transition from all of this, the legs and the thorax and the wing case down to the bead and the rounded portion on the back. It gets a little funky. And I just started using the cone, and I kind of like the cone, so I'll probably stick with that for a while. So that would be the hotspot version if you wanted to do that. Now, if you wanted to do the dubbed version, if you didn't want the hotspot on it, obviously we would not have clipped the brown thread off. Okay.
Do you use this for trout?
Yes, Ed uses this thing for trout all the time. I, not so much. I know a lot of times we've been out together and we'll just be having a tough day, and then all of a sudden I'll look up or look down if he's above me or below me, and he'll be, bailing fish, and I'll go down there and what he fish, and he just kind of laughs, and he's fishing one of these. So, but there's my dubbing. Spin it, touch it to the thread, work it out. Got a big old nasty clump there. Okay, tighten it up. Now come off of the cradle, and we're just going to cover up that spot in between the cone and the wing case with dubbing. So being as I tried to do both of them, that transition got a little big. If I didn't do the hot spot, it wouldn't have been quite this big, but you get the idea. So going back to, do you do solar res on the wing case? I don't. This is generally a smallmouth pattern. That, believe it or not, I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen, but the wing cases don't blow up. Now, if you're fishing trout and you're tying these specifically for trout, I may do that. Obviously, trout have teeth, whereas smallmouth don't. So it's a bit of a different animal that you're dealing with. But that's the Clouser swimming nymph. That is one of my go-to. I fish this pattern a lot. This is the fly that I fish when I don't know what else to fish, or if I'm on water that I'm not familiar with and I'm trying to figure it out. Great searching pattern. I call this my my security blanket. So yeah, that's the swimming nymph. So that's pattern number 2.
He asked if we have Magnum hubs on the vise. No, you don't.
No, these are standard hubs. These are standard. So this is a standard front hub, and this would be the Magnum hub. So if you want to switch cameras real quick, we'll go back to the wide angle camera and you can see. All right, so this is a standard front hub. This is a Magnum hub. So no, I don't have the Magnum hubs on, and I don't know why, because typically when I tie with the big jaws, I put the Magnum hubs on. All right, pattern number 3. You cannot do a smallmouth tying presentation. Do you ever cover the hurl with thin skin? No, I don't. That's it. That's how I fish it. What I just showed you right there. I believe the original did not have a bead on it. It didn't have a bead or a cone. It was just tied off right at the eye. A lot of Central PA guys, where Bob Clouser's from, you don't see a lot of beads. You don't see a lot of beads on their nymphs. And I tied it with a bead for years, and then I just recently started tying it with the cone. And I think the cone maybe gives it a bit of a cleaner look, just kind of personal preference. So, all right, you cannot do a smallmouth tying demonstration without tying a traditional type Clouser. So we're going to get to our trivia question as soon as I find what I'm looking for. We'll use one of these. All right, so remember these guys, the little pink bobbin caps that everybody's so fond of? I'm going to show you another use for them. So when you're tying up point flies, and when you're tying the actual fly, has anybody here ever stuck themselves in the finger with the point of the hook? No, that's never happened before. So you take your bobbin cap, you clip the end of it off, put that right over the point of the hook. Now you don't have to worry about stabbing yourself with the hook. Okay, so first step in this is, I got to switch to my other thread. I'm going to lay down the thread base just like I did on the first fly. A couple of wraps back, and I'm going to measure this up so I can get an idea of where I want my eyes to fall, which is about right where I started this thread base. So that right there is where I want these eyes to wind up. So I'm going to lay down some thread, go back forward, and then I'm not advancing the thread, and I'm just wrapping it in the same place, and I'm building that little bump up. Okay, that's where I want my eyes to be. So these eyes are, they're machined brass, and they're nickel coated, and they're called Balz. It's EYEBALZ. They're from Spirit River. They are, in my opinion, the best Clouser eyes that they make. They've got a little eye, actual like green and black pupil, and they have red, and they have a couple other colors. They make them in the nickel color. They make them in brass. They make them in black. These are the best eyes that that I've found, and I've been using them for years. So here is my question, trivia question. Go ahead and answer away. When we won't announce, there's a bit of a delay here, so we will announce the winner. I will do it later tonight or tomorrow morning. I'll go through, and whoever has the correct answer that types it in first, you're going to win a Nor-vise t-shirt. So the question is, what company, what fly tying manufacturing company contacted Bob Clouser first with the very first set of dumbbell eyes that he used to invent the Clouser Minnow? What was the name of the company? And type it into the comments, and whoever wins will get you a Nor-vise t-shirt out here tomorrow. So I got my thread base laid down, put my eyes on, and I will go 3 behind, just like I did before, back to front, front to back. Wow, that was quick.
I don't know if he won, but
wow, that was really quick. I thought that would take a little bit of time. All right, it's already been answered. So the answer is the company was Foxy, and that's the first company that made a set of dumbbell eyes that contacted Bob way back in the early 80s and started this whole craze of the Clouser Minnow. So Foxy is the answer. All right, so I got a little bit of glue on there. And now I'll repeat that front to back. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
a shoemaker commented and answered.
Did he answer?
He did.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Yep.
Of anyone, he should have.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you didn't get that one, Brian. So for those of you who don't know, Brian Shoemaker's watching. He's a he's a renowned guide on the Susquehanna. He is one of Bob's proteges. Bob spends most of his time down in Florida now, and when Bob comes home, he fishes in Brian's boat. So that's pretty good pedigree to have. All right, so this is one of my favorite Clousers. I'm going to tie it kind of traditionally, but we're going to tie it with Arctic Fox. And I started this love affair with Arctic Fox several years ago. It is one of my favorite materials, and I'm tying everything that I can think of with Arctic Fox. So I'm going to do this a bit differently than the traditional, and Brian's probably going to yell at me. I'm going to put a tail on coming out the back, then I'm going to put the lower wing, and then I'll put the upper wing. It's all going to be one color. They call that, this is Spirit River. They have fantastic Arctic Fox medallions. They call this white, but it's actually like a white and a gray combined. And when it's all done, it has a really cool fall fish color, which is one of the staple foods of our smallmouth. So I'm going to.
Brian's not going to yell at you. He's just going to throw it in the trash like he did it.
Yeah, right. You didn't tie it right, and he's going to throw it in the trash. So I'm going to cut off a hank about yay long. Now, one thing with Arctic Fox, it does, depending on the time of year that it's harvested, it will have some underfur. So basically what you do, you pinch it up here in the middle, and then you just kind of stroke it back, and any of the short fibers or the thick underfur will come out. You can comb it out as well. This is a pretty good patch. It doesn't have a lot of underfur to it. So, okay, that's what we're looking for. Now I'm going to do this junior, as in Tyler or Braden. All right, so I want my tail to be about 1.5 times the length of the shank. So there's 1, there's a half. So I'm going to trim this right here. I'll trim it a little bit longer because I want some tie-in. All right, now My thread is just about over top of the barb of the hook. And I'm going to lay this in. I'm going to do a loose wrap, medium wrap, and then a couple of good tight wraps and get this down on there. Okay, that's going to be my tail. This gives you a little bit longer fly than you can achieve just by doing the traditional top and bottom wing. There we go. Now I will advance this up right in front of the eye. I'm going to cut off another hank of material.
No flash.
Yeah, you know what? Let me put some flash in this. Good call, Tyler. And I didn't pull that out. Bear with us 1 minute. Don't go crazy with flash on my smallmouth flies. I will have a couple that have a lot of flash in them, but for the most part, it's really just an accent. So this is Pearl Flashabou. I've got 2 strands, and I'm going to fold them in just like we did before. Bring them up to the top. Now I'm going to wrap all the way back. Now, if you want to, you can split these and have them go down the side of your tail like so. So I just split them and laid them on all the way back to the tying point. And I'll advance my thread up to in front of the lead eyes, but behind the hook eye. Now I will take and I will cut this. Now here's a trick that one of my old saltwater buddies, save the underfur for dubbing. Absolutely. Here's one of the tricks that one of my saltwater buddies taught me. When you have Flashabou is wider. It's a wide material. So if you cut all 4 of them at the same length, they will kind of stick together and they will move as a unit. And that's not really what you want. You want them to kind of flutter individually. So when you cut them, don't cut them all to the same length.
That was Paul.
That was Paul, yeah, yep. So there's my 4 pieces of Flashabou, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to individually trim, and I want them just a little bit longer than the Arctic Fox tail, but I don't want them the same length. So they're all trimmed. I got 4 that are different lengths. That helps them from sticking together, and they won't mat together, and they'll move like this as opposed to like this. Just another one of those things that you pick up, tips that you pick up when you're tying flies that definitely help. All right, so now I'm going to get another section of Arctic Fox. This is the first one, was probably about the size of maybe a matchstick or so. This one is going to be not quite as heavy. I tied the first section on the bottom of the hook, so you don't want to go too heavy on this one. If you get too much material on the bottom of the hook, even with the eyes on it, it will flip and it will ride hook point down as opposed to hook point up, and that's not what we want with this pattern. Okay, so I want this to be a little bit shorter, and some of these long ones here I'm going to pull out. That's one thing I really like about Arctic Fox. There's a bunch of different lengths of hair that you can use, and I want this to be about half of the tail. So there's the end of my piece now, and I want it to be about half of the tail. All right, so that's about right there, and I've got it measured up. I'm going to clip it, and I'm going to tie it in right at the eye, and I'm going to wrap it back. You don't want to go right up against the eye. You want to give it a little cushion. So I'm not wrapping tight back against the eye. I've got a little bit of space there, and then I'm going to come underneath the eye. And I'm going to pull that down, and you can see I'm not letting go of the foxtail because I want it to stay on the top, which is going to be the bottom of the hook. Okay, and then what I do is a little bit different than a lot of people. I will X in over the top like so. So I've actually X'd my thread over the material where it goes over the eye. That again comes from a lot of saltwater fishing. I've caught so many stripers on Clouser minnows, and the way that we would use them, we would dredge them on the bottom. So this is the bottom of the fly, so it's literally being drugged through the sand. So we started doing this Xing in over the top, and then we would epoxy over top of this, and it gives you a more durable fly. And then we just brush that out, and we will flip it over to the top. Now, again, same material. Such an easy fly to tie. Now, on this top wing, I'm going to go heavy. So where the tail was a matchstick and the bottom wing was half a matchstick, this is going to be like 2 full matchsticks. This is going to be a heavy hank of material. If you're tying this out of bucktail, those proportions don't totally hold true. And you just have to tie a few and get a feel for the amount of material that you're using and to get the fly to do what you want it to do. Arctic fox, really, it kind of compacts nice and easy, but it has a lot of body to it. You're funny. He stays behind the camera. Deadly on striped bass. I probably caught more striped bass on this than any other fly. Not probably. I have caught more striped bass on this than any other fly because it's pretty much the only fly that I fish for striped bass. So that's going to be our top wing. Okay, you want the top wing to be the length of your tail. So it's going to come all the way to the back of the fly. We're going to measure that up, which is about right there. Give it a little trim so that they're all straight. Index the vise. That's another thing that's cool about the Nor-vise. When you're tying Clousers, you can index it every 90 degrees. Put my thread about in the middle spot between the eye, the dumbbell eyes, and the hook eye. I'm going to put a couple wraps on there, and I'm manipulating this to make sure that all this material is on the top. And I'm going to bring it home.
I like that thread color. That's silver.
It's actually Adam's gray.
Ah. Whatever works.
When I do the extended body Adams, this is the thread that I use.
Oh, okay.
But for a fall fish pattern, works great. All right, now I'm going to take this out. I'm going to take my little hook guard off because I shouldn't have to worry about stabbing myself anymore.
Stab yourself in a little lamp.
Yeah, I know. Well, it could happen. Now, get that separated so it lays on both sides of the hooks. And let me brush this out. And there you go. There's your gray or white or whatever color you want to call it, Foxy Clouser. Now, I do on these, as mentioned, I will take some Solarez thin hard, and I will coat the nose of the fly, and I will coat this area where the material goes over top of the eyes. That for this pattern is very important. It's a jigging pattern. You're going to be bouncing it off the bottom, off of rocks, off of sand. So you definitely want to reinforce that. What's cool about Solarez is you don't have to worry about it hardening. Back in the old 5-minute epoxy days, it was like a race to the bottom line here to get it situated and get it manipulated around where you want it to go. And this stuff, you can just leave it there and come back whenever you're ready. That's about what I want. Get my torch, hit it with the torch. Oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah,
That's
it's checking the whole
crazy.
Zoom screen.
Okay.
Yeah, don't aim that at the camera.
Yeah, all right. Sorry.
Curious how that comes through on Facebook.
Yeah,
We've got like a 20-something second.
it looks like a lightning storm over here. So, all right. And there you go. That Solarez right now is hard as a rock. And that.
Yeah, it comes through on Facebook with the iPad.
Yeah, and it brushes out. And this is kind of nasty bot in the water. That's what that thing's going to look like. So that's your Foxy Clouser in white or gray. This is fall fish, or a staple pattern of our smallmouth, and this is a fantastic fall fish type pattern. Killer snook fly too. Yeah, for sure. Yep. All right, guys. Any questions?
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, it has been quiet. I guess I'm doing a very good job of talking.
I mean, you're not holding grant numbers.
Of explaining. Yeah, I'm not holding grant numbers. Yeah, I'm not holding. I don't know if I've hit Shannon numbers yet. He was up to about 225. So, all right.
Just shoes. We've got really good ambassadors.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Last pattern. Okay, so I fought this pattern forever. I tried to like these type of patterns, and I just never did very well with them. And some of the guys in the know, the smallmouth guys, Brian Shoemaker, Mike Schultz out in Minnesota, a lot of his crew, they swear by this blue. That Schultz calls it Labatt blue. That's the color that the slang term they use for it. But they swear by these blue poppers and blue sliders for the damsels. And I have tried to like this blue, and still waiting for a Helgermite. Now, we're not doing a Helgermite tonight. I have tried to like this blue, and I never did really well with it. And earlier this season, I started fishing it, and I caught a handful of decent fish on a blue slider. So I'm kind of coming around the blue. Now, our buddy Ed stuck an 18-inch 2 weeks ago out of our drift boat. I was not there. I was on vacation. He was fishing with Brian and Tyler, but it was on a blue Chuck Craft pattern. So this is our damsel fly, or a version of our damsel fly. This is a TMC 8089. This is a bass bug deer hair hook. So this is a size 10. So don't let the size fool you, because the size on this particular hook doesn't transpose to what you would think is a normal size 10 or
size 2 on a regular.
A Gamakatsu B10S in a size 2 for this pattern would be fantastic as well.
So what size dumbbell eyes?
They are in the eyeballs. They are small, I believe. I believe they are small.
And then what colors do you primarily use for stripers with the Clouser pattern?
White.
White, olive.
Yeah.
Chartreuse is kind of.
Chartreuse over white, all white, olive over white, olive over tan. To be honest with you, I'm starting with white, and that's pretty much striper and smallmouth. And unless we're fishing at night. If we're fishing at night, it'll be black or it'll be purple, or black and purple. But if we're fishing during the day, I'm starting with white, and then I'm going to go from there. All right. So for the tail, we use pearl core braid in damsel blue. I do not have a lighter. So this is a cool material. It really does have some Damsel fly properties. My number one stream Smalley pattern. What's that? The white Clouser? Yeah. All right. So Tyler just went upstairs to get a lighter because I forgot that we need a lighter for this pattern. Okay. And I'm going to probably switch to a black thread for this one. Maybe not. Well, I'll just stick with this gray then. Okay, so this is the head that we're going to use, and this is a Flyman double barrel popper head. This is a size small in blue. I've already put the dragon eyes in there, which are a really cool eye, and I've also already pre-punched the hole through the center of the head. Now that's one thing I do like about, I kind of like and don't like the popper heads that already have the hole punched in them. They're easy, they're cool, you can just stuff them on the hook. What I like about not having the hole punched in it is you have the option of, if you want your hook to ride straight, you can punch a hole straight. If you're doing, this is going to be a slider, so you want the nose down a little bit, so you can make it nose down and make it dig down into the water. If you're doing a popper, all you do is flip it around and use the front of the fly as a popper head. So it gives you some options that having the hole pre-punched doesn't give you, but it is kind of a pain when you have to punch the hole through. So now what I do with this, whenever I'm tying these flies, I measure how much of the hook my head is going to take up. Okay, so I've got the eye coming through the front of the popper head, and I'm looking how much of this it's going to take up. I need to come back a little bit. So we'll go right about there. And let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks about right. So that is my point of no return. And I will tell you this, if you go up into this area with your materials when you're tying, you will not get this head on at the end. Some guys put the head on first, and that's fine. I kind of like putting the head on last. I don't like working around the head. It can be a little problematic with some materials and some techniques that we're doing. So I put the thread on and I use the thread. So this is my mark right here. So I don't want to come any further up the hook shank with any of my materials. We're going to lay a thread base down before we put the head on, but I don't want any materials coming any further than that. So that's my no man's land, so to speak. So we're going to wrap this back to this. This hook has kind of a funky bend. Like I said, it's a bass bug, it's a hair bug hook. So you can't get quite back to the barb because of the bend. So it's really about, on this particular hook, you want to be right about at the point of the fly. So I've cut a little section of this core, pearl core braid. Is that what it's called? Yeah, pearl core braid. I want it to be about 1.5 times the length of the hook. So there's one. There's a half. And then I'm going to leave a little bit for the tie-in. So I'm going to clip it there. And I'm going to take this. And I'm going to do a soft wrap and a medium wrap and then a hard wrap. And I want this tail right on the top. This pattern is so simple. It's crazy. All right, so there's my tail. Now, very important, if you do not do this, this tail is going to come apart on about your first 2 or 3 casts. Just take and singe the end of that down so that it kind of melts everything together and it makes it a lot more durable.
Just like burning the end of a rope.
Just like burning a rope, yep. Okay, there's our tail. Next material is a Staz. This is opalescent, light blue. You can use blue, just some shade of blue. It's a blue Damsel, which are probably the most popular ones that we have. All right. So I want to take a little bit of this. I'm going to tie it in. I'm going to wrap it back to my tie-in point. Come forward. Throw a half hitch in it. Throw another half hitch in it. Okay, now I'm going to take a wrap, and then I'm going to stroke these back each time because I want all this stuff pointing towards the back. And this has a cotton core, so you can really kind of pull on it, so you can put some tension. Okay.
What's the tail again?
I'll show you in a second. I can't let go of this right now. It's called Pearl Core Braid from Hairline. They make a bunch of different colors. They make the red, they make the green for the different damsel flies. This blue is that's our go-to. That's our probably our #1 damsel. Take that one off. All right, so there's my Staz. Got it on the hook. It's good and tight. Three behind. Few in front. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to clip this off nice and close. Okay, I want to pull all of these back. And I just want to wrap back on top of that. Now, I'm going to lay a thread base down. This is going to give my head and the glue something to bite onto. Finish this off. All right, now, like I said, I've already put the eyes on and I pre-punched the hole. I am going to run my bodkin down through there. It's a closed cell foam, so even if you punch the hole through, it can kind of close back up. So you just want to open it back up because it'll be much easier to get on the shank of the hook. Damsel flies are not very big, so these are not big flies as far as size goes. Okay. Now, one thing I will say, before you put your glue on here, test fit this head and make sure it's what you want, because if there's glue on there, you've got one shot to get this head on. And if you don't get it on right, the glue is going to activate, it's going to tighten up, and you're going to wind up cutting your head off. So sometimes, even with these, you got to go in with your scissors. Basically, I'm going to go in and I'm going to jam my scissors in there, and then I'm going to open them up, and that just gives it a wider area for the eye of the hook to get through. There we go. Make sure that's what you want. That looks good. Now we can do it as a slider, or you simply switch this around and we can do it as a popper. I kind of like the look of the popper, so let's go with that route. Either way, have both of them for sure. All right, so now while I'm gluing this, I'm going to put the bodkin back in just to keep that hole from closing up. And we're just going to put a good liberal bit of that on there. And if it starts to run off, just take the vise, turn it over. Runs off again, take the vise, turn it over. Now I'm telling you, you've got one shot and about probably 10 seconds to get this thing on. So you get ready, get it lined up, and drive it home. And right now I can feel that thing has cinched up, and yet that head's not going anywhere. All right, last step, take your bodkin, and we want to go about halfway between the back of the popper and the eye. Now remember, the hook shank is right here, so you got to go up above the hook shank. And I'm going to start right here. And I want to push that through. There we go. It's a tough foam, I'll tell you. Okay. All right, now just a couple of white rubber legs. And actually, you can get by with try crocheting needles, right? That you can get a go to auto parts store and get an O-ring pick, and they're a bit of a bigger diameter, and they work as well. All right, so I've got one. I'm going to double it over to make two. Okay, now this is the way that I do it. They have special tools to do this. This is one of our bobbin threaders, the dental floss threader that we've talked about. I've cut the end at a fairly steep angle. I don't know if you can see that, if that's coming through on the camera or not.
A little bit. If someone's looking on their phone, they're not going to be able to see.
Okay. So now I'm going to take the bodkin out, and before that hole closes up, I'm going to run this thing up in there, and it's split. Hold on, cut it again. Okay, so now I've got it going through the head of the popper. Take my two legs, and I'm going to put them through the loop. These through. Do this slow. Okay, and you got your legs, which simulate the wings of the fly. And I'm going to pull these. I'm going to pull them most of the way to one side. Okay, so they're very uneven right now. And I'm going to put just a drop of glue on them. And now I'm going to pull them through. And that's going to pull the glue up inside the head. And there you go. So easy a caveman could do it. Final step, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to trim these. And there you go. There is your blue damsel fly popper. Or if you flip the head around, you got a slider. Pretty cool. All right, guys, that's 4 patterns. We're at 8:30. So if you have any questions, let me know. We'll hang out here for a little bit. We tied 4 flies tonight. These are 4 of my go-to smallmouth flies. This is the Clawdad Chuck Craft pattern, tied a little bit differently than Chuck ties.
Oh, I had switch cameras.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got to hold
Okay, hold on.
You can't hold it in front of the...
Hold on. I didn't know Tyler switched camera. So there's the Clawdad. Little bit different than the pattern that Chuck ties, but tied in the spirit of the pattern. There's the Clouser Swimming Nymph. This is one of my go-tos. Great searching pattern, great security blanket. This is the Clouser, we'll say standard Clouser tied with Arctic fox fur. That's that, in my opinion, emulates a fall fish or just a light colored bait fish pattern. Great fly. Every smallmouth fisherman's box has to have a bunch of these. And then the blue damsel popper. All right, guys, any questions? Ed Hayes, that was awesome. I have some tying to do. All right, so one thing that I want to mention real quick, you can see, can you switch the logos, Tyler? Is that something you can do right now? You can see the Nor-vise logo there behind me. We have the close camera is fantastic. Good, Craig. I'm glad you like it. We have another website. It was actually before we acquired Nor-vise, is O'Neill's Fly Fishing. There's the logo behind me, or one of the logos. If you're not a member of, if you don't follow the O'Neill's Fly Fishing on Facebook, probably want to go and join that. You may want to join our mailing list. We are doing a lot of stuff with the website. I can't totally let it out of the bag right now what we're doing, but there's going to be some cool stuff up there. So stick with us. Give me about another week or so to get everything sorted out on the site and get the things up there. But what we're doing with the site and what we want O'Neill's Fly Fishing to be is it's some stuff that we're pretty excited about. Brian Shoemaker, very nice, good job. Little disappointed, no shimmering minnow. I almost did the shimmering minnow.
I gave him crap for not doing the shimmering
minnow.
minnow.
No, I've got an ulterior motive here. We're going to get Brian to do a Facebook Live at some point, and he can do his shimmering minnow from his house. So that's why I didn't do the shimmering minnow. So anyhow, we're doing some stuff with the the O'Neill's Fly Fishing. So follow that. I don't want to let it out of the bag right now what we're going to do, but it's some pretty cool stuff. So we should have it up in about a week. Next week, Keith Bearfield, who's one of our ambassadors. He's going to be tying intruders. Keith, are you doing them on tubes or are you going to do them on shanks? I'm not sure.
He said he stuck himself 4 times today, so I'm pretty sure he was tying something that involved a hook.
Yeah, okay.
He's practicing.
So he'll be tying intruders. It is the 5th of July, so let's give Keith some love on a holiday weekend. We got a great weekend coming up. Everybody be safe. Don't do anything stupid. Come back with all 10 of your fingers.
Casey commenting, guys, I'll be in touch, Brian, to schedule your date.
Did you really? That's funny. That's great. So yeah, guys, thank you very much. We had good viewership throughout the thing. We appreciate you coming with us. We really thought that we would drop off here, especially after Memorial Day, and we haven't. The numbers tonight were good. Hopefully they're going to continue to be good. As long as you guys are watching, we're going to keep bringing these to you, and we're scheduled all the way out through almost into September now. So it's getting pretty good now.
All right, Ed.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Appreciate all the support. We'll hang out here for another couple of minutes. If you have any questions, let us know. And if not, we're going to sign off. And you can always get us through the Facebook. You can message us through Facebook. You can email us, info@nor-vice.com, tim@nor-vice.com, or tyler@nor-vice.com. So we'll hang out here for another couple minutes, get some last minute questions in. If not, everybody have a good weekend. He said get him a booster seat.
We'll just, cut the vice down for him.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to come out with a vertically challenged version of the Nor-vise. Very informative. Thumbs up. Good, Glenn. I'm glad you like it. Thank you from Australia. Rock on, dude. I can't believe. I think last week Shannon
hit 6 continents.
6 different continents he hit last night or last week when he did this. That is what size is the popper head? It is small, Mike. It is the small head. 6 continents. I can't believe that 6 different continents are watching us, and we've had I don't know how many different countries. We're up to one time we had 13 countries. I think it's crazy.
We've got an ambassador in the Middle East, so when he logs in, we get to check Asia off of the continents because.
Oh yeah, Sean's over in the Middle East. Yeah, look, Sean, still right here, buddy. So, but yeah, like I said, we were thinking that the viewership was going to go down, and I've been kind of keeping tabs on some other companies and some of their live events, and yeah, you guys we're good. So thank you very much. Yeah, we're very, very, very fortunate to have the following that we do. All right, guys. I don't see any questions. We're going to sign off. If you need me, you know how to get in touch with me. We'll check the answer for the T-shirt, and I'll be in touch. So thanks, guys. Have a good week.